What's up guys, welcome to another episode of CSGO Bootcamp. Today we're going to be looking at cache, and for starters I'm going to tell you how I organize this video. And I organized it by starting on T-side, and we're going to look at T-side mid for the start of the video, and then we're going to move to T-side A site, and then after that T-side B. And then to close the video we're just going to look at CT side as a whole. The first smoke I'm going to show in this video is how to smoke Z. Because operas play here all the time, usually holding mid main. And the way you want to do this, it's really easy and it's right out of spawn. You're going to be looking for this big crosswalk, and then the third mark on that crosswalk. And then once you get in the front of that mark on the crosswalk, find the glass pane, aim at the top middle of it, and then you're going to run jump throw right when you hit the end of the mark. So you spawn, come to the front of the mark, aim at the top of the glass pane, and then jump throw at the end of the mark. And it's going to pop in Z just like that, and no opera is going to be able to use it against you. After Z, the other really common spot in mid to play is sandbags. And normally, you're just going to want to molly it, and a super easy way of doing that is just chucking mollies wherever you are in mid, just off that part of the wall. And they're going to bounce like that. But you're not always going to be in a situation where you can do that, where you can expose yourself into mid like that. And there is a way you can molly the sandbags behind boost. And it starts with this fire hydrant. You got to get in the corner of the fire hydrant and then aim at this point in the wall. And then you're going to be sliding along the wall. Once your crosshair hits the middle of boost, the middle front of boost like that, you're going to jump throw again. So it takes some practice, but you can get used to it pretty easily. So you find that mark, and then you run over to where your crosshair hits the middle, and then jump throw. And when you do that, you're going to be mollying this part of sandbags, and it's going to spread and force a CT player out. Now instead of Z or sandbags, a CT player might try to catch you off guard by hiding inside of vents. So it's a good idea to molly that too. And you can do that by just coming to the top of the ramp on the curb. And then you're going to see how boost is covered by this thing. Aim to the right of that, like this, and then at the top of the Ferris wheel. So find the gap, find the top of the Ferris wheel, on the ramp, by the curb, and then just run through. And that's going to pop inside of vents, and it's going to force a CT player into mid or into checkers. So if you're going for mid control, something that you can do that makes it really easy is just to do a wall of smokes. And for that, you're going to need 2 smokes. And all you want to do is come to this door, get on both sides of it, find this glass pane, and if you're on the left side, aim at the top right of the glass pane, and if you're on the right side, aim at the top left of the glass pane, and left click for both of them. And next thing you know, you're going to have a wall of smokes for mid, and they can't see you as a CT player. Now, what you can also do with this is you can team it with a flashbang. So you can come anywhere in this door, and instead of a smoke, you just left click a flashbang, and it's going to pop flash out into mid, where it's really hard to react if you're a CT player, and it's going to flash right outside the door and let your teammates swing mid, just like that. So if you're stuck in mid towards vents, you can smoke top highway if you need to. By looking at this cloud, and you're just going to have to try to find it by yourself and remember it. There's no obvious lineup for it. But you find this cloud in the middle of the sky. It's kind of lighter than everything else. Aim at the middle left of it, and just left click a smoke. And when you do that, it's going to bounce off the wall in highway and offer you some protection from somebody who's sitting quad or peeking from toxic fork. And now moving over to A site, I'm going to be showing you a couple smokes, and the main ones are going to be cross, cat, and parking lot. And to start, we're going to be doing the cat smoke. So for cat, outside of A main, come to this pallet along the right side, and then you're going to be paying attention to this light post. But to line it up, find the black mark, and then 2 windows over to the right side of the second window, and then aim all the way up, where you notice the light post bends in the end of it, between them basically. So between the bend and the end. So find that mark, 2 glass panes over on the border on the right side, and then all the way up to the middle between the end and the bend, and you left click. and that is going to smoke cat. So to smoke parking lot, you're going to have to do a more challenging throw because you have to be very specific because the surface you're bouncing the smoke off is not very flat. But anyways, you're going to come into this corner and then find this light post and this brick at the roof. Aim at the middle right part of the brick, just like that. And then aim all the way up to where that crosshair meets the light post. And then left click. And if I did that right, it's going to bounce super specifically where it smokes parking lot just like that. And then last but not least, to smoke cross, I think we all know it already. You just bounce it off this wall while you're running, and it's going to smoke cross. So when you team that with the cat and parking lot smoke I just showed you, it turns into a really isolated site. So who's ever playing A like this is not going to have a lot of support from his teammates. Alright, so for B site, there's a lot less in terms of smokes that you can throw to help take the site. More so mollies, but one important smoke that you can throw is CT, because CT players hold the cross here a lot. And the classic way of doing this is coming into sunroom at the white box in the corner, and then these 2 points on the wall, aim at the bottom left one, and left click. When you do that, it's going to pop a little bit deep, and sometimes there might be a small gap that they can try and use. Usually not, but the point of this is just to get from point A to point B without having a CT player pick you guys off. So for B site, a really strong spot to play is default, like this, or headshot. And there's a molly you can throw that kind of Molotovs both of them. And the way you want to throw this is come into sunroom where you see the sun, stand in the middle of it, like that, and then look at the wall. You're going to notice this section is kind of sectioned off into a couple pieces. Aim at the last section, at the middle bottom of it, and left click a molly. When you throw it just like that, it's going to pop on default and headshot. So if they're playing headshot, they're going to be forced out, and if they're playing default, they're going to be forced to swing. So if they swing default and they somehow get away, they're probably just going to go to triple. And there's a Molotov you can throw for triple as well, where you come into this gate in the middle, and then find this door, aim at the right side of the door, all the way up to where the wall changes texture, like this, up at this point, and then left click a Molotov. And when you do that, it's going to pop right behind triple and force the CT player out again. So on the CT side now, generally speaking, if you're playing mid, you're going to want a molly boost. And the way you can do this is come into this corner of the guardrail and then aim in the middle of this big plank and just jump throw a molly. And it's going to pop right into boost like that. And sometimes, if you're lucky, tick downwards like that. So if you're playing A site, a lot of the time you're going to want to smoke A main. And you can do this coming out of spawn at truck. You don't even have to be an A player. But to smoke A main, come to the wheel at the truck, aim at the top of the sickle, and then left click. So if you want to pop flash a teammate into A main, all you have to do is come into this wall, and then make sure your crosshair is over the A main entrance. But basically anywhere where the glass meets the building, up here, this line, just left click a flash, and it's going to pop into A main just like that. And if they're staring at the A main entrance, they're going to be blind. The only spot that won't be blind is probably the box. So who's ever going into A main has to just be ready for that. So if you need to smoke A main in a pinch because you're on site and you're alone and none of your teammates have a smoke, you can do it by coming to the shadow on site and then finding this huge white cloud surrounding the sun. Find this bulge sticking out of the cloud at the bottom right, and then double click a smoke on the right side of that bulge. And if you do it right, you're going to smoke A main just like that, and you're going to buy your teammates a couple extra seconds to help rotate and help you out on A site. So moving over to the B site for CT, the first thing I'm going to show you is how to smoke B main from heaven. And all you have to do is get in this corner, and then you're going to notice on this wall a huge line. Basically just aim in the middle of that line and left click a smoke, and it's going to bounce off the wall and pop into B main, sort of like this, and give you some B main control as a CT side. Now, a lot of the time at B, you're going to have a teammate who's playing checkers, and occasionally they're going to want to peek B main. And you usually want to team that up with a flashbang, so they don't just peek it dry. And a great pop flash to use is come into the generator at the back of B, and whatever this thing is on the wall, you're going to use it. And you're going to notice along the edge of it, it makes a corner. Aim to the left of that corner and then just left click a flashbang. And when you do that, it's really good for flashing into B main. It'll get sunroom, and it's really good especially if you're peeking from B site. The one problem is it's not going to get this corner. So whoever your teammate is, they should probably pre-aim this first, but everything else is going to be blind. And now if you need to make an adjustment to that, so your teammate, if he wants this corner blind, all you really have to do is, instead of getting in this corner, you're just going to scale along the wall, and then you're just going to left click into B main, essentially like that. There's nothing super specific about it. It's just that it won't get sunroom, but it's going to get the corner that you're looking for, which is this one. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next episode of CSGO Bootcamp.